James Harden, one of the most controversial, loved, and hated players of this year alone. To say that this year has been a wild ride for Harden fans is an absolute understatement. I mean, this man at one point was out partying on camera and was accused of wearing a fat suit in a game to try and get himself traded. But now, James Harden has been playing with the Nets for a solid minute, and he has been able to change his narrative from being a partying joke that can't play with other stars to a frontrunner in the MVP race according to many around the league. And today, we will discuss exactly how James Harden has proved all the haters and doubters wrong since he joined the Nets, and what his future and legacy will look like if he does a few important things. But as always, if you end up enjoying the content, it would be absolutely clutch if you subscribed if you're new and join the Woods crew, because we're out here posting quality videos daily, and if you enjoy this one, you will not want to miss any of the other videos. I just want to put it out there and be honest, I was starting to get down on James Harden at the beginning of the season with all that was going on. I mean, like I said, the man was going to clubs, parties, and teammates have been saying it had been going on for years, but he always came back on time and played well, so no one really cared. As much as the skipping out on the team and horrible interviews at the time made me dislike Harden, I honestly just felt bad for him, especially looking back now. And I believe the interview that Harden was in right before he got traded really sums up the whole situation and what it was like for him.
Which is not good enough. Everything, and it was clear. Like I said, these last few games, I love this city. I literally, have done everything that I can. This situation is crazy. It's something that I don't think can be fixed. So.
Was Harden in the wrong for all he had done this year on the Rockets? Definitely, but before this year, Harden really did give it his all for this Rockets team every single year, and there's no question about that. But yet, this team couldn't win, so Harden had every right to leave after that. Now, even though James Harden has been playing insanely high-level basketball for the Nets and is proving everyone wrong in that aspect, I honestly believe what shows that James Harden is in fact proving everyone wrong that he wasn't the issue in Houston is their struggle after he left. I know, losing any star in the league will make you worse, and some of their players in particular and Christian Wood have missed some time. But in just 1 year, this Rockets team literally went from one of the best to one of the worst just like that. Well, almost the worst, because you can't forget about my Timberwolves, because we have that bottom spot secured. But even though they aren't the worst, just take a look at the game that the Rockets just played against the Timberwolves. They let one of the worst defensive teams in the league come back on a 22-0 run and win. That in itself just shows how bad this Rockets team has become, because they did not score a single point in the last 7 minutes and 30 seconds of the game against the worst defensive team in the league, and that's just pretty bad. All of that aside though, at this point in time, it is very clear since Terrell Morey and James Harden left the team, they have undeniably been one of the biggest messes in the league, and there is no understatement in me saying that. Now, I know what some of you are about to say, this team wasn't even good when Harden was on it at the beginning of the year, and all I have to say about that is this man was trying to get traded, so obviously he's not going to play good. That's how badly he wanted to get out of Houston. Enough of the past though, because we need to talk about the present and the fact that as we speak, James Harden is literally making a case for MVP of the whole league. Since James Harden joined the Brooklyn Nets, this team has been missing their stars in Kevin Durant and even Kyrie Irving at times for personal reasons and injury. Yet, James Harden is out here getting this team wins and making it look easy. And that in itself proves my statement that he just wasn't trying with this Rockets team earlier this year. Think about it this way, James Harden earlier this year was on a way more talented roster than he has been playing with in Brooklyn. I mean, the Rockets had guys like John Wall, Christian Wood, and even Boogie Cousins playing high-level basketball with chips on their shoulders. But what Harden has been playing with while the stars of Brooklyn are out isn't even close to as good as the Rockets guys I just mentioned, yet he's out here getting this team wins because he actually wants to play for them, and the stats don't lie. At the time of making this video, James Harden has played 30 games for the Nets and is averaging 25.4 points, 8.7 rebounds, and 11.5 assists while leading the Nets to 24 wins in this time as well. Sure, some of these games did have the full Brooklyn lineup, but for the most part, it has either been Kyrie and Harden or just Harden all by himself. But despite the incomplete lineup in the past couple of weeks, James Harden has stepped up and delivered everything the Nets team needs from him and more with his insane level of play. Harden has been making guys like DeAndre Jordan, Jeff Green, and even their new acquisition Blake Griffin offensive threats because of the ability he has to pass the ball. Not to mention that with the Nets, James Harden has been shooting the ball at a crazy efficient rate like always. But how exactly was James Harden able to change the narrative of himself so quickly and now become one of the most liked players in the league once again? Well, I'm not sure if you noticed, but ever since James James Harden was traded to the Nets, he has been out of the media completely. In one of my first videos, I talked about how guys like James Harden and Kyrie Irving would just be better off if they didn't do interviews at all, because at the beginning of this year, it was just making them look absolutely terrible. I would say that Kyrie Irving was a lot worse in this sense, but what gave Harden the bad rap is what he was doing off the court, like I already mentioned. But now, since Harden has been in Brooklyn, there has been no stories about him partying at clubs, being out of shape, or being a nuisance to his team. Now, James Harden is balling and playing the best team game we have potentially seen out of him ever, and I believe that he has officially proved all of us wrong. At this point, I don't care that the Rockets got Harden stars like Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, and Russell Westbrook and blamed it on Harden in the end, because it is clear to I and many other NBA fans that James Harden is capable of taking a step back and still contributing to a team and giving them exactly what they need. This was a big question when James Harden was traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Would the stars be able to play together without tension, and was there even enough basketball to go around for the three, but in particular Harden and Kyrie? I remember at the time this trade went down, so many people were saying it was a bad move for the Nets and they didn't need more star power because LeVert and Allen were that good. But let me just say that oftentimes when making a finals push like the Nets are looking to do, star power beats depth almost any day of the week. And when you get star power like the Nets have, it attracts depth like Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge because they know how valuable stars are in today's league. Normally, when you have this much star power on a team, it just simply does not work. I mean, there are only so many minutes and touches for three guys who are arguably in the top 10 or at least top 20 in the league. Yet, here we are with this Nets team making it work. We already knew that Kevin Durant could play off the ball and get less touches and still have the same impact. We saw him do it in Golden State and we've been seeing him do it for a long time. James Harden was the real question, but he's officially answered it for us. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I didn't think they would make it work as good as they have. This may be in part because Kyrie himself has stepped down a bit and let James Harden be quote unquote the best point guard of the team, but regardless, James Harden has proved everyone wrong with what he's been doing in Brooklyn on and off the court. And it's safe to say that Nets fans couldn't be any happier. But that's not where the story ends, because not only did James Harden make it work for the Nets, my man is absolutely thriving and has established himself in MVP talks, which in itself is insane. Normally, when there is this much talent on one team, it is a lot harder to get an MVP chatter, because if that person left the team, they would still have other stars to rely on. But with the injuries of KD and absences of Kyrie, this has provided a very unique situation for James Harden, because he is literally the only reason why the Brooklyn Nets are staying afloat. Without James Harden, the Nets aren't winning almost every single one of these games out of their last 20, because that would mean that Joe Harris would be their next most talented player for this team available, and as much as I like what he's doing, he is not leading this team like James Harden is capable of doing. It's plain and simple. James Harden has had the Nets team on his back and is leading them to wins. So do I think he has a chance for MVP award, being that is the regular season accolade? It's definitely possible, but I believe the sole fact that this team has KD and Kyrie on it will get in the way of this happening, even if James Harden does deserve it for his level of play lately. But who knows? If he keeps getting these 40 bomb games and this team is at the top of the East, you really never know what could happen. The Beard could potentially run away with another MVP under his belt. Regardless though, James Harden has proved all the doubters wrong, and I'm not going to say that he wasn't causing issues in Houston, but with the way that he's been playing and acting now, it is clear that there is no way everything that happened was his fault. Because now, James Harden is locked in and ready to win on and off the court. All we have to do now is wait and see if his hot streak carries over to this playoffs team and finally gets all these Nets players the rings they've been looking for. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode. Let me know down below if you would like to see a breakdown on Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge, because I would definitely be open to making one once we see what type of role they'll be getting on this team. And honestly, other topics you'd like to see, comment them down below, because I will always make the content you guys request. But as always, if you did enjoy, it would be greatly appreciated if you subscribed if you're new and joined the Woods crew, as well as leaving a like down below. But regardless, I really appreciate all you guys still watching. Catch y'all on the next one. Woods out.